You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am Ilona with Yoga with Ilona Bianca, or the host of this podcast, Actually Yes. Basically a podcast that helps you and I grow as a person in a holistic way to change your mind state from, I'm not sure, I don't know, maybe, to actually yes. So today on my podcast, I am super excited. I have Justin Frandson, who will talk about EMF, or the electromagnetic field, and kind of educate us about how it affects our bodies, what we're using, and how we can help protect ourselves. So before we get into that, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and leave a takeaway in the comments of what you got out of today's session to keep this podcast and YouTube page going. So let's get right into it. I am excited about this topic as I started learning about this a little bit on my journey. And it's really something that we should really be aware of, especially it affects our everyday lives. So with that being said, Justin, could you go ahead and share with our audience here a little bit about your background, what got you into wanting to educate others about the EMF and things like that?
You got it. Thanks for having me on, Ilona. Appreciate it. And yes, we're going to chew a lot today in this topic. It is all around us. EMFs, they're man-made, and then there's cosmic waveforms. And so the man-made ones are the ones that can be challenging. So can the cosmic, actually. But we'll get into that in a bit. But the man-made specifically is what we're going to be addressing. You can measure EMF and the speed of the waveform, and there's several different types. You have electricity and magnetic resonances, which are a lower spectrum. And then you have dirty electricity, which is a faster wavelength. Milligauss is 50, 60 hertz or waves per second. Dirty electricity is the hundreds of thousands. And then the wireless is in the millions to billions of waves per second. And we kind of chatted before this, and the universe has this healing pulse about 7.83 hertz or waves per second, which is a Schumann resonance. So we rev really low and slow with that. But then when we start getting into the cell phones and all the wireless stuff, those are up into, cell phones 2.45 billion waves per second. So just to backdrop it, we're made really differently than the wireless stuff. And real quickly, the wireless has a positive charge. We have a negative and a positive coming from above and below, but this a one directional waveform, I think, is a really big challenging, whereas the waves that we're used to distribute equally in every direction. So it's got a lot of man-made. EMF has a lot of strikes against them.
Yeah. So where did it start with you where you're like, you know what, I like this topic and I want to tell people about it? Was there something that happened in your life, or maybe just, you were just like, there is a lot more to this that I would love to educate people about?
Well, I was one of the last guys to get a cell phone. I could feel the resonance of it, next to my head or on my hand. And so I always knew there was something different. I think I saw it. I'm a athleticism performance coach. So athleticism.com is my other site, and worked with amateur and professional athletes for the last couple decades on human performance. And I do nerve work, sensory and motor nerve work, and I treat concussions. I do some really incredible work with the body at the deepest level, because the nerves fire the muscles. And so what I saw is when people would wear smartwatches, their whole arm would go weak. The strongest guys you could ever see. They're driving Teslas, and their body was breaking down for no reason, because they had so much of this man-made invisible stressor. So I looked to categorize it, and I'm going, okay, we got the food down, we got the exercise, we got to figure out all these components. Let's get rid of the invisible stressors, and then they'll get better just automatically. So researching EMF, I found that the biggest invisible stressor was EMF that hadn't been addressed. And it's not only a biostressor for our body, but it's actually an environmental toxin. And so Ilona, the same way we would say, I think Dr. Tom Cowan, MD, said it best: if we're studying dolphins and they all get sick, you're going to say, who polluted the water? And for us, what we've seen the last few years is we are adapting to increased radiation in our electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere. So that's our environment, is this air and plasma that these waveforms travel, that you can be in Michigan, I can be in Southern California, and we can have this, awesome conversation. So it's all waveform and everything has a resonance. So really understanding that component is huge. So I'm going, gosh, they're invisible toxins for our body. They're environmental toxins for our environment, where our bodies are trying to figure out how to adapt to it. And they just break down with it. So I got to dive even deeper and figure out proximity awareness protocols and how to get grounded by nature. So net of it, Ilona, I look to nature to solve this challenge versus creating a man-made device attempting to keep up with man-made signals.
Yes. And so with that being said too, because as we talked earlier, you were like, oh, what is that on your wrist? And I'm like, nothing. With smartwatches and things like that too. So what are other things that we use in our everyday lives that we're like, we think it's really good, which it can be to a benefit, I'm sure. Other than that, it's like your wristwatches, your cell phones, like you said, things like that. Cause I when I was looking into you too as well, I remember, somebody had said that they had used your product and they were sleeping better at night. So then is that one of like the effects that can happen is like, maybe your sleep disturbances? I guess what are some other things that, again, that we're using all wirelessly all the time? Even I talked to like my family and they're using the wireless headphones like constantly throughout the day. And I'm like, you should probably give your ears a break, or really your body in general. But so I guess like, what are some things that people are like, okay, what's the big deal about this? Like, what are some symptoms or, like of things that people may experience without realizing?
Like five questions in one.
I know, sorry. Okay. So how about like the symptoms that people may experience?
let me back it up for everybody. So the difference again is we have a positive negative charge from below. We rev at a really slow rate, about 7, or actually 1 or below 1 to 8 hertz or waves per second when we're sleeping. With athletes, their alpha state, their brainwave states 8 to 12 when they're in the flow state and they're playing their sports. Again, really low and slow. Then we introduce the man-made stuff, one directional waveforms, positive charge, 10 zeros faster than how we sleep, rev, and optimize. So that's that. Now, what are the stressors that are creating this? Well, electricity, all the electricity in your home and is one. That would be under a milligauss meter where you'd measure that. Then we go into dirty electricity speed, 100,000 waves per second range. And that would be from solar on a home, from improper wiring and there's static in the line, from a dim switch, from rats eating lines going in and out of a junction. Because remember, those signals have to meet or there'll be lots of dirty electricity, which is static. And they're transient signals in the line, static in the line. And then you go into the wireless world of wireless earbuds and cell phones, Alexas, Nest AC units, smart devices, smart TVs, all the wearable technology, self-driving cars, smart meters on your home, automated gas and electric meters. So these things all are looking for signals to communicate and respond for directly what you're looking for 24/7. That's why they kind of call them smart. They're actually always pinging to figure something out and want to communicate. Well, when we're sleeping, our brain doesn't need to, our shoulder doesn't need to be tapped on saying, hey, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. We want to go into that deep restorative sleep. So it's really important to understand these different types of stressors, how they're measured, that you can purchase meters to measure those different speeds of the waveform, and then figure out proximity awareness, and then figure out products, also just getting grounded by nature, how to go into all that. So that I'll wrap that in a nutshell, and then we'll keep moving forward.
And I just get so excited with all these. I'm like, we got to answer all these questions, which it can be hard to answer all of them at the same time. So yeah, with like athletes or just like normal people in general, when they have these, cause I'm not going to lie, I have a lot of those things that you said in my own house. So again, what are some feelings people may experience from like the after effect from having those in and around them?
Perfect segue. So Ilona, the one thing is people need to understand is the science behind, how we break down. So we got that. Now what do the doctors study? Well, there's so many. Bioinitiative.org did a study with several hundred scientists from over 40 countries, and they came up with what we call safe level. So 1 milligauss or below would be considered safe. Yeah, and if you put up a milligauss meter to the front dashboard of any new car, it's 7 to 57, which is really hot and high.
Okay.
So a lot of these are electrical wiring challenges where these manufacturers could ground them out and make them cleaner, and they don't. So that's a huge thing. So there's these great groups like bioinitiative.org that figured out. Dr. Klinghart's another one that figured out mold, Lyme, mycotoxins are all charged by EMF. So when we can get rid of that, EMF stressor, then we can slowly start to heal from those challenges. Dr. Martin Paul out of Washington State University states that the vibration from low-level EMF, it vibrates our body and it lets excess calcium into a negative cell. So the voltage-gated calcium channels get opened up. So you get positive calcium in a negative cell. That excess calcium causes tremendous cell and DNA damage. So that's kind of the vibration, and the secondary effect is what happens. What we see with in my world is the eyes, the teeth, the thymus, which is your upper chest, lower neck area, and your small intestine area below your belly button. Those are the 4 primary areas that get decharged. So when your body is decharged, you don't heal as effectively. So we use our grounding bags. We tap on them with one hand and cover the eyes, the teeth, the thymus, and your stomach one at a time for about 12 seconds each, tapping. And that's an applied kinesiology to recharge them, which is cool. So we can recharge, we can coexist with this stuff. The one other thing I want to mention on symptoms, I would categorize from here on out, once we figured out that first bit, the level 1 symptoms, Ilona, are cognitive, focus, memory, behavior, anxiety, fatigue, stress, all those challenges, headaches, all cognitive. I think the Havana cohort was the first attack of U.S. embassy workers on foreign soil with microwave radiation. It was on 60 Minutes multiple times and aired recently, from what I heard, again. But they saw level 2 symptoms and level 1, but they saw non-trauma concussion symptoms, nausea, ringing in the ears, migraines, rashes on their skin, muscle twitching, like a level 2 EMF radiation poisoning. And then level 3 would be Alzheimer's, cardiovascular challenges, diabetes, suicide, cancer, top 5. And now I have to add a 6th one, lack of fertility, because we're seeing a lot of it. So
yeah,
that's where we're at right now.
yeah, which is scary too. But like, again, that's why I like to have these different topics to talk about, because people, like it's hard because it's like, oh yeah, I have those, those could be like generalized symptoms, like, yeah, I have anxiety, I have this going on, or digestive issues, or, but it's like, okay, but yeah, like what's out there in the media, that might be, like a certain thing. But then if you don't know about other aspects, like if you're using all this wireless stuff all the time, hey, maybe that is contributing to it. And again, you may not realize that unless that information is presented to you too as well. So like I said, even just like learning about you just for a brief moment, I, like rethought a lot about it, a lot of things in my own household that I'm like, oh, wow. It's like you hear the word smart, so then you're like, oh, my smartwatch is like good, it's benefiting my health, or, it's helping me track everything and all that kind of stuff. So it's just an interesting perspective to kind of think about that. So with that being said, we were talking about too with, what is your take with 5G? So again, as I was telling you before, in our area, we don't have it as much, but I think even like an email or text message saying that it's starting to roll out. So could you talk about that in general too?
Definitely. Well, let's start with the doctors and the researchers are saying, not just me, who's a practitioner working with professional athletes, but their doctors are saying that it destructures water. So 5G will destructure water molecules. So when your water is not structured, you don't absorb it, very efficiently. And then that can be another array of challenges. There's an incredible book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Firstenberg. And I want everyone to get this book and read as much as you can of it. It's a long book, very well researched and referenced the history of electricity and life. And Arthur Firstenberg categorizes all the major pandemics and directly correlates them to increased shifts in our electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere, whether they're cosmic or man-made. So cosmic shifts would be just centuries ago where, we're actually, there's no way to transmit a virus, from one country to the other country across the world, but they're all getting the same symptoms. But then we go into 1918, the Spanish flu. That was the first time we ever rolled out radio waves on a broad spectrum. Then World War II was radar, and satellites in the Van Allen belt was a Hong Kong flu. So he categorizes in extensive detail multiple experiences and times in our life and before that had direct correlations to rollouts of increased radiation. And right now it's 5G. So that's what we dealt with, was the 5G is the last, year or so. I think it was just a couple years ago. That was the big rollout of 5G. Now there's a different frequency that we're adapting to of a contagion. But anyhow, this 5G stuff is 60 to 90 billion waves per second. And remember, Ilona, we sleep at 1 or below 1 to 8 waves per second. That's our brainwave state. So massive difference in the speed of that waveform. So it can be extremely challenging for people's bodies. And it depends on, when you're 25 to 50, you're in a stronger bracket. Younger doesn't have a skull blood-brain barrier fully developed. Elderly, their mechanisms are starting to slow down. So that it's real important to keep that life force up before and after, but we got to establish some proximity awarenesses of this stuff and not have, these laptops on our lap, and have these earbuds in your inner ear. That's 2.45 billion waves, per second of direct localized radiation in your inner ear. Because remember, there's just an airway canal directly to your brain. There's no skull in your ear. So if you have earbuds in, you're literally getting potential for localized radiation directly on your brain, which our own California Department of Public Health says there's acoustic nerve challenges and cancer challenges with it there. So that's where we're at with 5G. We want to turn it down. Unfortunately, the FCC doesn't care about your health. Our own government really doesn't. I mean, they're saying they want connectivity, and they're touting this 5G, this internet thing, as being so great because everyone can connect. But in reality, Ilona, you go to a poverty-ridden area or a remote area, they don't even have electricity. So what are they going to do, with this radiation on them 24/7? They're not going to be able to really use it at all. It'll be worthless other than really chipping away at the environment's health of nature and the animals and then their bodies.
Yeah. Which makes it quite scary, huh?
Yeah, but I don't want people to worry too much because we're in this incredible world where uh, it's meant to protect us. Mother Nature has gifts of innate healing power. So does our bodies. And the biggest thing that would hurt us is if we fear it, and I got tricked and I had to do an emotional clearing to clear it out. I went to clear an office and I went in it and I got a headache instantly. They had massive cell towers right above the roof. It was just probably one of the most scary things I've ever experienced in my life. So I'm like, oh no, we're such doom and gloom trouble. But what I've learned is there's this thing called physics, and it's awesome because we can take a one directional waveform and convert it to something that's unpolarized. And that's what we do with our grounding bags. And that's what Mother Nature does from getting sunlight from a positive charge from below and getting above, and then giving a negative ionic charge from below from the earth. So the more we can get outside, breathe different ecosystems, get those minerals in, get the positive charge from that sunlight, get the negative ionic charge coming from below, from the Schumann resonance, that healing pulse of the earth, the more we can get grounded by nature. And then when we are inside, use our grounding bags.
Yeah. So then with that being said too, so it sounds like you were telling us ways to help protect ourselves. And again, yeah, fear is not, it can be scary at first, especially if you're not aware of it. And then you're just like, here's all the information, but it's again, just being aware more so and what resources you can use and what are other things that can help counteract or protect yourself. So yeah, if you wanted to talk about your grounding bags, like, I guess, what exactly is it? And how does that work? And so we'll just start there.
Well, same with nature. You can, again, we're pulling the electrons from the negative ionic charge of the earth. So going barefoot, getting in any body of water, an ocean, a lake, you're going to be able to feed your body with that nutrients. Touching a tree, hugging a tree, being barefoot in the sand and the grass, all those things are components to earthing or grounding, getting grounded by nature. What we've done are EMF Rocks, emfrocks.com products, are hand mined crystals. They have moisture and magnetic properties. So shungite, amethyst, black tourmaline, all the ones that are known to be Tesla crystals that have that resonance, that frequency to help, they're like radioactive material, and essentially to help combat man-made EMF. That's why they're called Tesla crystals, because everything carries a resonance, and those ones have a little stronger one for EMF. Ours also have a moisture content with them. That's a difference. So when you add the moisture with the magnetic from our crystals, they're incredible about repelling EMF, grounding, recharging your body, and it's all for a deeper night's sleep. So what we do is we literally just put this on or under your bed, and it's super simple. You use it as is, keep it sealed, so there's no need to open it. And we actually have to keep it sealed because they'll dry out over a long period of time. They'll last anywhere from 2 to 10 years, as long as you keep them sealed and out of heat and out of water and all that stuff. But they're absolutely a game changer for converting that waveform for you. One on your bed, at the head of your bed, between your head and your headboard, or even under, just leaning against the leg of the bed, will allow you to get into a deeper REM sleep. So you go into that theta, delta theta brainwave state, that lower, slower, restorative sleep, and convert that one directional wave form pinging you from your neighbors, from your smart meters, from your Wi-Fi being on, from your cell phone not being on airplane mode, like all those things. So that's what it does. 5 together on the floor will clear a 2,000 square feet area. So the more mass of the mind you can compile together, the bigger the frequency, like exponentially bigger frequency that it kicks off. So anyone that's looking to get pregnant or has a fetus, they're pregnant or a newborn or elderly, or literally anyone looking for productivity in their life and just to get a better night's sleep, this will help benefit them.
Yeah, that's nice. Because even with, my yoga journey too, I've learned about rocks, gems, crystals, whatever you classify it as. because I know different people associate it with different things, but just how, like you said, going back to earth and how a lot of those have its own healing powers to it, that I'm just like so mind blown. Cause like, it's like, you think about when you're a kid, oh, it's a rock, you get excited. But then like, as you're learning more about it, where it's from, its effects it can have on you, even just for your own like health journey. Like, I don't know. I personally have fallen in love with them, where I'm like, this is great, kind of thing. So
and they're beautiful. I mean, they're like literally, unfortunately you can't enjoy the beauty of ours, but definitely nature has these incredible capabilities, and there's so much beauty in her, and to have them in our life and connect to that resonance, it's really understanding waveforms. And that's the message that I would love to convey. It's not, there's no virus flying around to kill people. Like literally, these are resonances and frequencies that we're adapting to. And when we start to understand this difference, it's probably what I love to say is the most contagious thing is a smile, like literally. And so there's this innate intelligence in nature that we're connected and that we connect with. And it's so profound and robust and expansive that the only way I can explain it is just the way I did. But once we start to really think in terms of resonances and waveforms and frequencies, that's when I think we're going to really start to evolve our awareness and our consciousness. And a quick funny story. Well, there's I went to a yoga studio in Southern California, and they're doing all this great work, but literally it's an office building, and there's smart meters for the whole building, or like a dozen of them are literally on the other side of the wall where everyone's really looking to get grounded. So again, like understanding that you can be doing the best work, but still be getting zapped. So I really want to raise the consciousness for everyone. And yogis, like they're some of the most gifted facilitators out there and really connected and grounded. And so let's raise that consciousness even higher and look at your surroundings when you're going into these classes and you're doing some great work with people, because the more we can get the stressors out of our world, the more capacity to heal and expand we're going to have. Yes.
Yeah, that is so true. Because just with anything too, it's like, if you're working on a certain part of your health, but then you're not looking at other aspects too, then, you could be working really hard. Like, why am I not seeing results? And then it could be, again, that other thing that you're unaware of, affecting it too as well. So I thought it was interesting too, when you said like using it around your bed and things like that, and just kind of helping with that. Now, for people out there who would be interested in getting some from you, now does it disrupt like if you're on the computer or on your phone or whatever the case may be, like having that nearby, does that disrupt the frequency where it's like it would mess with your electronics, or do you have to have those things a certain part away from each other, or how does that work?
Well, it's really interesting. We've looked at this from a lot of different ways, and what we found is the grounding bags actually clean up a wireless signal. They clean up the signal. So it's just, I'm waiting for the wireless companies to start banging on our door saying, hey, let's put these at our cell towers and start broadcasting healthy bandwidths and have crisper, cleaner lines, because there's something about that, the resonance of this, that cleans up the line. So it's healthier for us, but it's also healthier for, the individual. So you're not going to see a connection degrade. We're not blocking a signal. We're converting a signal into something that distributes equally in every direction as a vibration effect on our body. So if we have a blocking product like a paint or tint, something of that nature, even a Faraday bag, it has really great repelling components. If you had a smart meter on one side and you taped maybe our larger Faraday bag, on the opposite side, it would repel it. Or if you had a router here and your desk is over here, you want to direct the signals the other way. There's great repelling or blocking, if you will, properties. But again, you can't stay connected and you can't coexist with man-made EMF. It's literally impossible, virtually impossible right now to get rid of this. There's thousands of satellites, in the sky. There's this Internet of Things with smart meters and cell towers, and it picks up nuclear bandwidth. Unfortunately, all this bandwidth is getting broadcasted through our normal electricity lines, along as the Internet of Things, like just in the air. So we're literally getting sandwiched by this stuff. So yeah, we gotta look to nature, to how do we coexist with it versus trying to just block it and get away from it, because the blocking's a futile effort. And no one does it better than nature to kick off a resonance, that Schumann resonance, that frequency healing for our body. So we just look to her, and that's what our products do. That's why we sell them literally at doctor clinics all around the country.
Nice. Yeah, that's good to know too. Because some people might be like, well, I'm interested in protecting myself, but then is it going to disrupt, my like work environment if I have this near me too as well? So it's good to know that, like you said, you can coexist with it and it's protecting you too as well. So that's good insight and information on that. So another random thing I had thought about, and I did not think about it until I heard you on a podcast too as well, is you were talking about like airplanes and being surrounded by that in the air, which I love to travel. So I generally tend to be on airplanes, and I guess I never thought about that either. So if you could just kind of talk about that, how that can affect you, even with you just being in an airplane and not thinking about that.
Yeah, airplanes are tricky because you're in a metal capsule, and you encapsulate these signals. They're going to start to just bounce nonstop. And you have several hundred passengers in it, plus Wi-Fi. And when all the passengers turn on their Wi-Fi, you're looking several hundred times 2.45 billion waves per second. I mean, that's way too many zeros for me to even fathom. And that's what our bodies have to deal with. So yes, I've had a client that he just was diagnosed with childhood diabetes, and the parents went to Fiji to get out of town, get some earthing grounding. The mom had a new watch to track the son's blood sugar. It spiked 200 points when everyone turned on the Wi-Fi, and he got a bloody nose. Really incredible. And she's watching this whole thing and timing everything, going, oh my goodness, everyone's on, boom, Wi-Fi, which is what we uncovered was the cause of his diabetes, was really high levels of EMF in his home. So he was really sensitive to it. And then towards the tail end of the flight, people fall asleep, but then about half of them woke up, got back on their phones. The measure went up 100 points, and the son got another bloody nose. And so our bodies really are so resilient. And what we want to do is build that life force up through breath work, through grounding, earthing, build your chi, your energy up, and get grounded and clean it out. And you can bring the grounding bags on the plane with you, and I use it as a low back support. I mean, it's a bag of rocks, so it's not the most comfortable, but to put it on your sacrum is probably the power center, just opposite the power center of your body. Really powerful place to have the bags. Before you travel, we do have crystals inside of a static bag. So you'd have to take the inner brown bag out of the static bag before you go through TSA. And then once you go through, you tap on the inner bag of crystals just to recharge them again, and then seal them back up in the bag. And I mean, right now, the last 2 times, Ilona, that I've flown, I've gotten sick because I didn't travel with the full-size grounding bags. I only had the mini, and I was relying on our mini grounding bag, and which is normally pocket purse or backpack protection for on-the-go protection.
Right.
And it literally wasn't enough for me on the plane, unfortunately. So lesson learned, I will not be traveling with anything less than 2 grounding bags on a plane from here on out, for sure.
Yeah. Again, it's just so interesting to, again, that, when you get on a flight, like you had the option to have Wi-Fi if you wanted to. And I guess you don't really think about it. You're like, oh, okay, cool. and then go about your day. But then, yeah, just even get off the flight, the jet lag or things like that, that you don't really think about that could be contributing to that too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Is there any other tips, suggestions, anything that you were like, oh, I really want to talk about that real quick?
Well, we've covered a lot. I mean, I think the next thing would be is to share some books. Dr. Tom Cowan talks about the contagion myth, and he talks about frequencies and viruses that they're our adaptive system, that we produce them when we're poisoned. And it really couples with the invisible rainbow. Really important stuff for people to learn and understand. Those two books, along with this book, Electric Body, Electric Health by Eileen McCusick, really denote everything that I've said and back up everything that we've shared. She talks about our bodies having that positive charge from above and the negative from below. And we have this resonance, this life force, energy field that goes out 6 feet, which is our chi. And that can get, Bruce Lipton says your health lies in your chi and your energy field. So that can get stuck, layers of toxicity. So tapping on the grounding bag will help flush that and recharge you as well. So those are some points to really understand. Obviously, I wrote a book called Athleticism, Whole Body plus Whole Brain equals Performance. So that's my book. And in the first section is awareness. And I cover everything from semantics and intake and hydration, structuring your water. I talk about EMF protocols and toxicity. So I wrap a lot of that awareness before we get into the whole body and brain exercises. That first section, there's a lot that dives into it. So I really encourage people to look into that. The last thing I would say is, make sure you get a Faraday bag too, and put your phone in it. Right now I have a phone in our Faraday bag, and the reason is because it protects you from your phone. It protects your phone from data harvesting, and so the lifespan of your battery will last a lot longer when it's in the Faraday bag, because there's trackers on every device. And probably the biggest risk for our freedom, is literally the technology and the data harvesting, because they control everything. They have trackers for your fingerprint, your retina, how fast you drive, your gait, your bank account information, your passwords, like literally all that is just in your bank app. And then you go into TikTok or all these others, they're tracking and aggregating so much information, directing it to artificial intelligence. So one of the biggest things that I would really suggest is to look more at Android phones. They don't have as much tracking capabilities on them. Look at getting Faraday bags, protecting your information, really putting your devices on airplane mode, using encrypted platforms to communicate, double encrypted platforms like Signal. Jitsi is a great one to do video conferencing on. There's so many out there, but slowing down this aggregation of data is going to be a huge, huge benefit for our health and longevity, and allow us to stay free. Because if someone has access to your money, and all our information, that's a challenging place to be in. So that's what these telecom companies are doing. They're literally using, and they're not even using Wi-Fi anymore. They use beacons, and they just have speakers and a Nest smoke detector unit. And these speakers communicate when someone says, "Oh, fire," boom, they place an ad and they start selling information to you. And they're using it. Yeah, these companies, that's why Apple has 13% market share, but they're worth trillions of dollars. It's because of this technology that they can market to people. But unfortunately, we know that there's always ulterior motives with other people, which isn't enhancing for us. So those are my closing remarks. Look at all this stuff. Understand how to protect yourself from your phones, how to protect yourself from all the wearable stuff and wireless proximity awarenesses, and just get grounded by nature, because it's your nature.
Yes. Well, thank you for that. Real quick, sorry, keep thinking of other things as you talk and everything. So when you say like proximity, somebody who's just starting out, what is a good amount of space between, like their cell phone, maybe when they're sleeping or when they're just awake? What, like, is there a reference range where you should try to generally have it to help protect yourself even just a little bit more?
Yeah, there's a SARS reading. It's an absorption rating that the cell phones put out, the companies put out when they're doing their testing. They never test with it right up to you. Every inch away from you is exponentially better for you. So if your speaker phone, have it away from you. So the further away, every inch further away, the better. Cell phones at night, literally put them on airplane mode. Have your routers to time out at night, like put them on a timer so they go off when you're sleeping and then they turn back on when you wake up because you're not ever using them. Convert smart meters to analog. Like these are some really simple things that you can do for proximity awareness, and really avoid earbuds, avoid electric cars, avoid solar on your home. Electric cars, are touting them as, oh great, but you're sitting on a battery. Like that's not enhancing for our body. And then, it's the whole thing self-driving and the whole thing's electric, all around you. So you have all three of the highest stressors at the greatest level with the closest proximity. So again, awareness on understanding all these different things, and all electricity isn't bad for us. When we can get it grounded and we can get these levels really lower, our bodies are so resilient, can adapt. But again, we have to focus on building our chi and our life force. And we're not a Shaolin monk. We don't sit around and do breath work all day for decades. Like that just, unfortunately, that's not our culture in a lot of ways. So we have to have little stricter protocols with the proximity to these.
Yes. Well, that was great information again. Thank you so much. And again, just kind of breaking it down for people out there and having your references, which I'll put in my show notes too as well. If you want to send over the books and things like that, if you have links or anything for people to look at. So again, thank you so much, Justin. And is there anything that you want them to, like, if they wanted to contact you, that you can shout out here on our YouTube podcast channel, where they can find you? Best way to reach you, I guess, suppose, in a way.
Thanks, Ilona. I fully appreciate you having me on, and these podcasts that we do are so important to get this information out there. So thank you. And you can find me on emfrocks.com is where everyone gets the grounding bags and all our other products, and also athleticism.com, athletic, spelled athletic, ism.com, where we have a whole curated health and performance products. And so those are the two main places. And I'm on lots of podcasts, so I'm sure they'll see me out there as well. So, but thank you so much, Ilona.
Yes, you're welcome. So again, thank you everyone. And thank you, Justin. And we will see you hopefully maybe in the future, talk about something else.
Yes, would love to.
All right. Bye.
Am I awake or am I dreaming?